Alvin Creepy Karpis was unlike most men of his time. Born in 1907 as Alvin Karpowicz, he grew up restless, intelligent, and always searching for something more than the ordinary life offered him. He had a sharp mind, an unsettling grin that earned him the nickname Creepy, and above all, a patience and cunning that made him far more dangerous than the reckless outlaws who blazed briefly and died young. While others chased fame with guns blazing, Karpis moved like a shadow, always thinking 2 steps ahead. It was in the chaos of the Great Depression that Karpis found his place. Across America, banks were collapsing, people were starving, and faith in authority was crumbling. In those desperate times, crime became both a temptation and a rebellion. Gangs flourished, robbing banks, hijacking shipments, and, most dangerously, turning to kidnappings for ransom. Karpis would rise to infamy here, not alone, but with a family that seemed born into crime. The Barkers, Fred and Doc Barker, were hardened men, quick to violence and loyal to their own. But at the center of their legend was their mother, Kate Ma Barker. To some, she was just a mother who refused to abandon her sons, no matter what crimes they committed. To others, she was the mastermind, pulling the strings behind her boys and their partner, Karpis. The truth remains blurred in history, but one fact is certain: wherever the Barker sons went, Ma Barker was never far behind. Together, they formed the Karpis Gang, a group that would terrify America during the early 1930s. While many gangs specialized in robberies, Karpis and the Barkers turned to something bolder: kidnapping the wealthy. In 1933, their target was William Hamm, heir to the Hamm's brewery fortune. On a quiet afternoon, Hamm was snatched off the streets of St. Paul, Minnesota. The gang demanded ransom, and his family, fearing for his life, paid. Hamm was released, shaken but alive. The gang had struck gold, and with the money, they tasted both wealth and power. But success only sharpened their ambition. In 1934, they attempted an even bigger score. Edward Bremer Jr., the son of a wealthy banker and family friend of President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Snatched in broad daylight, Bremer was held captive while the gang demanded a 200 Zalesnern, an astronomical sum in those days. The ransom was paid and Bremer was released unharmed. But this time, the gang had gone too far. Bremer's father was no ordinary banker. He had ties to the President of the United States himself. This wasn't just another crime, this was an insult to the nation's most powerful man. Now, the Karpis Gang wasn't just being hunted by police. They had the full weight of the FBI bearing down on them. J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI, was determined to make an example out of these gangsters. America had already witnessed the bloody fall of John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, and Babyface Nelson. Hoover wanted more trophies, more proof that his FBI could crush the criminal underworld. And the Karpis Gang was now enemy number 1. The hunt was relentless. The Barkers and Karpis shifted hideouts constantly, from the Midwest to Florida, always looking over their shoulders. Yet even in hiding, their grip on crime remained strong. But cracks began to form. In January 1935, FBI agents tracked Fred and Ma Barker to a quiet lakeside home in Ocklawaha, Florida. Surrounding the house, they demanded surrender. What followed was one of the most famous gun battles of the gangster era. For hours, bullets tore through the walls. The FBI poured fire into the house, determined to end the Barker legend once and for all. When silence finally fell, Fred and Ma Barker lay dead inside. The FBI triumphantly displayed Ma's body as proof that she had been the gang's mastermind. But to this day, historians argue, was she truly leading the gang, or simply a mother who followed her sons to the bitter end? The truth perhaps died with her. Yet Alvin Karpis was still alive. More cautious than the Barkers, he slipped through the net again and again. For another year, he remained at large, his name whispered with fear across America. He was the last great gangster still roaming free. Finally, in 1936, his luck ran out. In New Orleans, FBI agents cornered him. The arrest was almost anticlimactic. No blazing gunfight, no heroic showdown. Karpis surrendered quietly, without firing a shot. But J. Edgar Hoover seized the moment. Hungry for glory, Hoover insisted he personally led the capture, cementing his own reputation while Karpis was paraded as the final prize of the gangster era. Unlike many of his peers who met violent ends, Karpis lived. Sentenced to life in prison, he became one of Alcatraz's most infamous inmates. Serving over 3 decades, he outlived Dillinger, Nelson, Bonnie and Clyde, and even the Barker brothers. He was a survivor in an age when most outlaws burned out fast. When he was finally released in the 1970s, Karpis was an old man in a world that had forgotten the fear his name once carried. He died in 1979, far from the chaos and bloodshed of his youth. The Karpis Gang remains one of the most fascinating stories of the gangster era. It is a story of loyalty and betrayal, of a family bound by crime, and of a man too cunning to die young. Their kidnappings shook the nation, their battles with the FBI shaped the legend of Hoover, and their story continues to spark curiosity today. Because in the end, the story of Alvin, Creepy Karpis and the Barkers is not just about crime, it's about survival myth and the blurred line between truth and legend.